Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the future of Gaza and the outlook for Israel on the line as President Donald Trump and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meet at the White House today. We're going to hear what the plans are for what could happen after the war, and we're going to get Israel's reaction. A deadly attack on a Mormon church in Michigan as a gunman shoots at parishioners, then starts a fire, leaving 4 dead. Christians in South Korea are concerned for their religious freedom after police arrest a pastor. And the cleanup and rebuilding are still underway, 1 year after Hurricane Helene devastated parts of North Carolina. All those stories and more right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Monday, the 29th of September. Going to begin this half hour with the talks that could determine how Israel's war with Hamas in Gaza could end and the fate of those remaining hostages, as Israel's prime minister is meeting with the president at the White House today. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is going to bring us the story right now. He's reporting from Jerusalem.
Their meeting will focus on the 21-point plan President Trump presented to Arab and Muslim leaders at the UN last week. Netanyahu told Fox News the negotiations are still a work in progress.
Well, we're working on it, Jackie. It's not been finalized yet, but we're working with President Trump's team, actually as we speak, and I hope we can make it a go because we want to free our hostages. We want to get rid of Hamas rule and have them disarmed, Gaza demilitarized, and a new future set up for Gazans and Israelis alike, and for the whole region.
On Truth Social, President Trump struck an optimistic tone. We have a real chance for greatness in the Middle East. All are on board for something special. First time ever. We will get it done. Details of the 21-point plan include Gaza to become a de-radicalized, terror-free zone. If both sides agree, the war ends immediately, and the IDF withdraws gradually. Within 48 hours of Israel's acceptance, all hostages, alive or deceased, returned. Gaza run by a temporary government until the Palestinian Authority reform is complete. It's not clear if Hamas has seen the proposal, but parts of it could be a tough sell in Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu has repeatedly rejected any role for the Palestinian Authority in post-war Gaza or the creation of a Palestinian state.
It's probably one of the most consequential meetings in the history of Israel since the 1948. I'll be that adamant. The conversation right now and the concern in Israel, and for all those who are Zionists, Jews and non-Jews from around the world, is President Trump's statement last week, where he came out very adamantly and said he will not let Netanyahu declare sovereignty in Judea and Samaria.
Oren Seliger of the Yesha Council, which represents more than 500,000 Israelis, says a number of mayors who support declaring sovereignty flew to the U.S. to meet with Netanyahu.
Is to tell him in Hebrew, Chazak ve'ematz, be strong, know that the country is behind you. He already knows that in the declaration at the Knesset, there was a declaration of sovereignty where 71 members of Knesset voted for sovereignty.
The meeting at the White House comes as the IDF is pushing deeper into Gaza City, the last main stronghold of Hamas. The IDF chief of staff says the army is doing everything possible to quickly return the hostages and defeat Hamas. In the past few weeks, they've taken control of key neighborhoods in Gaza City. Prior to the assault, the IDF has sent text messages, made phone calls, and dropped thousands of leaflets urging civilians to evacuate combat zones. Hamas, on the other hand, has been trying to force people to stay. But so far, the IDF says about 750,000 residents of the city have left, but another 200,000 may still be in the city, some calling it the biggest human shield in history. But now all eyes are on today's White House meeting, a pivotal moment that could determine how and when the nearly 2-year war between Israel and Hamas finally ends. Netanyahu says he knows the war could end today.
Every nation now in the world has to say one thing to Hamas: release the hostages, all of them, and lay down your arms. And if you do that, the war can come to an end immediately.
Going to continue our coverage right now with Chris Mitchell. So, Chris, what is the hope in Israel for Netanyahu's meeting with President Trump today?
Well, Ephraim, over here, they want the end of the war, but they want it on Israel's terms. In other words, not necessarily a premature end to the war, a complete defeat of Hamas. Many Israelis who have lost sons or daughters in the war, they don't want their sacrifice to be in vain. They don't want Hamas to no longer be able to govern Gaza, and especially the return of the hostages. So a critical meeting right now. The hope is that there'll be a path to peace, but that guarantees both security for Israel after the war and the victory over terror.
Does the Israeli government believe this 21-point plan is workable?
Well, they're still working, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said, still working on the negotiations. But what about Hamas? I mean, will they agree to release all the hostages on one day? There's many people here in Israel that are skeptical if Hamas would do that. That would eliminate any leverage they have against Israel, that they've been holding, a number of hostages for almost 2 years now. Will they disarm? That's another question, whether or not they would actually disarm, like the one of these 21 points says they would have to do. What about Qatar and other Muslim countries? And what kind of pressure may they exert? And what is their role after the war is over? One question I don't think many people have really discussed this, Ephraim, is will Jews be allowed to resettle parts of Gaza? You may remember they were expelled in 2005 in the so-called disengagement, where nearly 9,000, almost 10,000 perhaps, Israelis were evicted and expelled out of Gaza. Will some of these communities that were destroyed right after 2005, will they be able to return? So what happens in the tunnels of Gaza City and what Hamas decides really may determine the immediate next steps, and that may be actually more influential than what happens today in the Oval Office.
What is Netanyahu's response to the Palestinian Authority being in charge of Gaza after the war?
Well, he's dead set against it, Ephraim, and actually during his UN speech, he really mocked the PA's promise of reform. Some people would consider it or compare it to like Lucy and Peanuts in that cartoon, where Lucy would continue to hold the football and tell Peanut that he's not going to take it away, where then he tries to kick it and she takes it away and he keeps falling for it. So that's pretty much the way Benjamin Netanyahu put it. They still have, that is, the PA still has the pay to slay program, where they pay terrorists actually who have murdered Jews their salary or their family's salary. There's still incitement going on in the mosques under the jurisdiction of the Palestinian Authority, still incitement in their curriculum. So Netanyahu says replacing Hamas with the Palestinian Authority is like Hamas 2.0. Will they reform? History seems to tell a different story. And Benjamin Netanyahu is saying they're really part of the problem, not the solution.
Netanyahu is saying now not the right time to annex the biblical lands of Judea and Samaria and the West Bank. Tell us more about what the people in those areas believe.
Well, they believe, Ephraim, they're fulfilling biblical prophecy, exactly what the prophet said thousands of years ago, that they would return to the mountains of Israel. That's Judea and Samaria. They feel like they're walking in the footsteps of their ancestors, Judea and Samaria, which many people call the West Bank. Jew, the word itself comes from Judea. So this is the biblical heartland of Israel. Nearly 80% of the events in the Hebrew Bible took place there. And many of these people disagree that delaying, like Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is saying, declaring sovereignty is the right decision. They believe it may invite more international pressure, and they believe that declaring sovereignty over these biblical heartland would strengthen Israel's historic and biblical claim to the land.
All right, our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thank you so much for your insight. Looking forward to hearing from you in the days ahead this week. Coming up here at home, the investigation into a deadly attack on a Mormon church in Michigan. It happened Sunday, and a pastor arrested in South Korea as Christians there are worried about their freedoms. We're going to have both of those stories for you when we come back. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. The FBI is investigating after a horrific shooting at a Mormon church. It happened in Michigan Sunday. A gunman drove his pickup into a packed church service and opened fire on parishioners and then set that building on fire. At least 4 people were killed and 8 others injured. CBN's Wendy Griffith is on this story.
Officials are still searching for those missing after a deadly shooting and fire at a Michigan church in Grand Blanc, about 50 miles northwest of Detroit.
We're working tirelessly to find additional bodies. So to answer your question, the entire church has not been cleared because it's a total loss due to the fire.
Hundreds of people were gathered for worship inside the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Sunday morning when the gunman opened fire.
We have an active shooter at the church, and PD's on scene saying the building is also on fire.
Police say the suspect, 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford, an Iraq war veteran, reportedly rammed a pickup truck through the front door, got out, and started shooting. Then he started a fire. Police responding to the scene in less than 30 seconds confronted the shooter. He fled the church and died in a shootout in the parking lot. The flames consuming the building forced firefighters to retreat as the roof collapsed.
I have people trapped in the building. Repeat, people trapped in the building.
A teacher at the church was inside when the attack began.
One of our counselors was up speaking, and we heard a big bang and the doors blew.
Investigators say the shooter used an assault rifle and may have had multiple improvised explosive devices inside his truck.
Our church is gone. I joined the church 38 years ago in that building, and now it's gone. See, somebody would do this to my church.
The governor of Michigan posting on social media overnight saying, "Violence anywhere, especially in a place of worship, is unacceptable." President Trump condemned the shooting on Truth Social. The church reportedly mourning the death of the 101-year-old president of the LDS National Church, who passed just hours earlier. Officials say they're searching the shooter's home just 8 miles from the church and poring through his cell phone records as they work to determine a motive. Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
I want to turn now to South Korea, where Christians are concerned for their freedoms after the arrest of a prominent Christian pastor. As Lucille Toulousan reports now from Seoul, many are calling this event a wake-up call for Korea's church.
If I am imprisoned, it will prove that Korea is no longer free. Reverend Chan Bo-son made that statement just before entering the police station for a pre-trial hearing on September 8th. Despite being a preliminary session, the court approved his arrest warrant and detained him immediately. Charges against Pastor Son include violating election laws, specifically for interviewing a candidate on issues the government interpreted as illegal campaigning. Authorities cited risk of flight and destroying evidence as the reasons for his detention.
To a senior pastor that has been ministering the same church for the last over 30 years and being present for the people and the church members and giving back to the community, serving for the community. The concern of escape that the court says makes no sense, and I believe that this is just a political retaliation.
Pastor Son first drew government scrutiny during the COVID-19 pandemic, when his church defied restrictions limiting gatherings to just 5 people. The church was fined and at one time shut down. Last year, Pastor Son organized a rally, mobilizing 2 million people on-site and online to oppose the proposed comprehensive anti-discrimination law, which critics say would criminalize preaching against homosexuality and restrict religious speech.
I think this is a targeted arrest. I think the government is trying to send a message across the nation against all Christians in Korea to be quiet and to comply with the government's aggression against conservatives and Christians in Korea.
Behind me is the Young-Rock Church, one of Korea's oldest churches, founded by North Korean pastor Reverend Han Kyung-jik in 1945. With 150 years of Christian history in Korea, Pastor Son's arrest is seen by many as a wake-up call, not only to defend religious freedom, but to remind the church of its role to protect democracy.
I think, in part, the fault lies with the Korean church. I believe this is sort of a punishment from God. Our ancestors of faith have gone through many trials, so we too can have the faith, but we disregarded that gift of faith.
Church historian Myung-soo Park told CBN News that South Korea's economic success has historically paralleled the vitality of its church. But he now warns that such religious freedom is gradually diminishing.
Just recently, prayer and Christian activities in Christian schools are being suppressed to avoid discrimination against their non-Christian students. The government has put restrictions in sharing our Christian beliefs in public.
Park believes that a united voice from both American and Korean evangelical communities can create a stronger, more impactful call for Pastor Son's release and broader religious freedom. Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Seoul.
Still ahead, the one-year anniversary of a 1,000-year flood. We're going to show you how you are helping to rebuild more than just damaged homes. We got the story for you. It's all coming up right after this. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. A year ago, Hurricane Helene's floodwaters tore through the mountains of western North Carolina. Today, the cleanup is still underway. Faith-based groups from across the nation, including CBN's Operation Blessing, are there for the long haul, helping communities to rebuild. CBN's Brody Carter brings us this first-hand look.
In these mountains, few believed that a hurricane could bring such devastation. But when Helene dropped more than 30 inches of rain, creeks turned into rushing rivers and landslides claimed lives.
And so we're talking trillions of gallons of water coming in to our mountains and our valleys, and there was just nowhere for the water to go.
State officials say Helene triggered roughly 1,400 landslides.
I'm okay. My car's gone.
The torrent damaged more than 8,000 roads, bridges, and culverts in what many call a 1,000-year flood. It left more than 100 dead in North Carolina alone, and at least 5 people remain missing.
It overwhelmed my spirit so much. Honestly, I begged God to make it stop. It was so overwhelming.
Dave Marshall, a pastor of more than 40 years, says he's never faced a test like Hurricane Helene. With help from other faith leaders, First Baptist Church of Hendersonville, North Carolina, became a beacon of hope for those impacted by Helene.
Recovery was also tricky because of the season that we were headed into. Winter was coming.
More than 100,000 people saw their homes either damaged or destroyed. Some still live in tents and RVs by the Swannanoa River. After weeks without power and washed out water lines, recovery kicked into high gear. Volunteers from nearly every state poured in, partnering with groups like Baptists on Mission. With 5 job sites throughout western North Carolina, the group plans to stay for up to 5 years, with a goal to rebuild or repair 1,000 homes. And while the news focused on the destruction, churches saw a different headline.
I'm here to tell you that the real story was the love of Christ. The love of Christ came from all over the country and even all over the world. In any form that you can imagine, every single church was filled to the brim of Christians sending help. And that was everything from food and diapers and hygiene products to chainsaws and generators.
That same mission to love others is why CBN's Operation Blessing remains at work here. Teams have been rebuilding homes, replacing wet floors and windows, while also delivering aid to those in need.
My main thing is to deploy when there is a disaster, assess the situation, call in the assets that are needed, and then manage the operations on the ground.
Operation Blessing Disaster Relief mobilized within a day, first staging in Forest City, then setting up command in a Home Depot parking lot. After partnering with local churches and Excel College, they've opened a distribution center in Black Mountain. After a year of serving neighbors, faith-based partners have formed the Better Together Coalition, including Excel College, World Vision, and Operation Blessing to repair homes for the long haul.
Lord, thank you so much for this opportunity to get together.
The look of hopelessness in somebody's eyes after having lost everything, it's palpable. And when you can put things in motion and create a significant difference in their life within 2 or 3 days, the look on their face is no longer that hopelessness. Now they've got hope, they're smiling, they see a path towards moving forward.
I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, the floors, everything in there,
it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
For residents like Robert Parker, the work means more than new floors and windows. It means a fresh start, staying housed, and finding hope.
There was a supernatural presence throughout this whole situation. From the start to the finish, I think the Lord preserved me in this trailer over here. It's just this really great process of a rebuild on the inside and the outside of a structure and of a human being.
For many, Psalm 23 has become the reality, a promise that even in dark valleys, God is with you.
I was reminded that it's the shadow of the valley of death, that death is only a shadow. It only appears for a little while. A shadow can't hurt you. Death is not the end if you're in Christ. We know our home is in heaven, and we're waiting for that to be home with Jesus. And so we're able to share that message and continue to share that message.
Looking back now, a year later, it's hard to look at this now calm water and understand how it caused northwards of $60 billion in damage in North Carolina alone. Scores of people traveled from all over to help put these communities back together. It'll take many more years to finish the job. I'm Brody Carter reporting in Western North Carolina, CBN News.
And you can learn more about what Operation Blessing is doing in the U.S. and around the world and how you can help simply by going to ob.org. We're coming back with an encouraging word for your day and your week ahead. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Time now for your Monday motivation. Want to leave you with this thought. If there is breath in your lungs, there is promise in your future. God is not done, and you're not done either. God has given you yet another day, another moment. Don't waste it making your troubles bigger than your God. There is nothing greater than Him. He's breathing in your direction, and He's giving you a second wind and time for yet another win. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online, cbnnews.com. We'll see you back here tomorrow.